Good morning. Good to see all of you. Thank you for being here, and welcome to those who are watching by live stream as well. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are this Sunday morning. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. So glad you're here. My name is Joe Loughlin. I'm the lead pastor here and one of the teaching team members, and I've been away for the last several weeks, all the way across the hall, preaching in the modern venue. And I'm back with you again today, and I'm really glad I am here with you today. Can we give a hand to the choir and orchestra this morning? Can we do that? Wow. That was incredible. Choir and orchestra, I got to tell you, I'm feeling like I don't have a shot because they just kind of sat there and stared at you while you were doing that, and that was incredible. That was wonderful. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And they're going to take, the choir's going to take about 3 weeks off now. And they'll be back. So when y'all come back, start right at that level where you left off. Can you do that? Okay? That'd be awesome. In 2004, Valerie and I and 3 men from our church in Waco went to North Africa, to Tunisia, or Tunisia, as they say over there, to do some mission work there with some partners that we had there. And we knew that while we were there for the 10 days in North Africa, that they were going to be hosting the Africa Cup. Now, the Africa Cup is not as big a deal as the World Cup, but all the African nations go through this tournament on off years that the World Cup is not happening. And as we knew that when we were there, it was a possibility that we might get to see a match. We weren't sure because Tunisia was hosting the semifinals and the finals there in Tunis, the capital of Tunisia. It's ancient Carthage, that area of North Africa. So we got there and found out one fun thing that happened is that Tunisia not only was hosting those matches, they won their quarterfinal and semifinal matches, so they got to play in the finals. And they were playing the dreaded infidels from Morocco over on the western coast of Africa. And one of the powerhouses in Africa, still a powerhouse in the World Cup, as you know, now in the quarterfinals. But anyway, they were hosting them for the finals match. And all of the guys, now in that culture, ladies really don't go out in public much. And so the ladies all stayed at the house. But the guys got to go all together, the 3 of us, 4 of us guys, and a host or 2 of our workers there in North Africa went to a local tea and shisha pipe cafe. That's what you did in that day. These are Muslim people. 99% of the population of Tunisia is Muslim, and true Muslims, don't do alcohol. And so they go to tea rooms and drink hot tea with mint in it and smoke from shisha pipes, the towers with the pipes on them and all that. So we went to watch the finals match in this cafe a few blocks from the stadium, and all the traffic and all the crowd and everything was there, probably in a room about the size of our rehearsal hall with 150 Tunisian men there. And when they found out that Americans were present, they ushered everybody away, gave us the prime seats in the front middle so that we could watch on a black and white TV about 18 inches by 18 inches on the wall with all the shisha pipe smoke going and everything. And it was very exciting. And Tunisia won the Africa Cup. They beat Morocco 2-1, and the place was bananas. I mean, it was crazy. All of a sudden, 150 Tunisian men wanted to chest bump with each and every one of the 3 Americans that were there. I was exhausted and spent. I had never chest bumped people so much in all my life. I didn't even know I could, but I did. It was great. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to celebrate that. We were rejoicing with those who were rejoicing, and that's what I want to talk with you about today. That's why I'm telling you that story. This morning, I want to begin a little 2-part series with you and do rejoicing and suffering. Today, we'll talk about rejoicing. A couple of weeks, we'll talk about suffering. It reminds me of a both and series we did 7 years ago here at First Temple. In fact, later this month, Ryan Russell, your teaching young adult pastor, will do a little 2-part series in here with you, and that will be a both and kind of theme as well. But this morning, I want to talk to you about rejoicing with those who rejoice, chest bumping those who are celebrating some kind of wild victory in their life. We get this idea from Paul in his letter to the Romans and a parallel verse in his letter to the Corinthians, in his first one to the Corinthians. So in Romans chapter 12, verse 15, this is what Paul says. Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. And again, we'll do the weeping and suffering in a couple of weeks. But today, rejoice with those who rejoice. He's talking about life in the body of believers, that there's to be this culture where we rejoice with those who have good fortune, great things happen, they accomplish something, they get a windfall, something good happens in their life, either from some outside force or their own doing, but we're to celebrate with them. Now, he says something similar in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. He's also talking about the body life in that particular passage as well, but he inverts the two when he gives this instruction. Listen to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 26. He says, and if one part of the body suffers, all the parts suffer with it. If a part is honored, all the parts rejoice with it. So he inverts it, but still makes this very clear instruction to us in the body of Christ that we are to be about rejoicing with those who rejoice. And that may seem sort of like, I don't know, a minimal kind of way to look at this, or some sort of like yawn where, why is this big deal? Why is this important? But it doesn't take us too long to think about the fact that we live in a world that doesn't know how to do this at all. In fact, we live in a culture, in a society that is driven by a negativity bias. In fact, experts have been watching and noticed that as young as 3-month-old babies begin to show signs of a negativity bias. It is that ingrained in us in our culture. See if some of these things ring true to you about our negativity bias. If it bleeds, it leads. The constant shadow of death and doom in the 24-hour news cycle. Scorched earth political campaigns. You've seen the AI-enhanced smear ads in your mailbox, right? You've seen those? Cancel culture and moral outrage. Y'all, we've even come up with new phrases to describe the level of negativity bias in our culture. We've had to come up with new ways to express it. Cancel culture and moral outrage. Social media algorithms drive the perpetuation and promotion of high emotion arousal. Click-driven alarm framing. It's negative words and headlines that create much greater attention to the reader and response clicking than headlines that are neutral or positive. If you want somebody to pay attention to what you write, you better stick a negative kind of alarm-based phrase in your headline. Scathing reviews. Now, not everybody gets on reviews and gives restaurants and retailers reviews online. Some of you do that. I never do. But for those in America that do that, they are twice as likely to give a 1-star review for some negative experience with an establishment than to give a 4 or 5-star review when something good happens. The attitude is, well, it should have been good anyway because I gave them my money, so I'm not going to reward them for that. There's this negativity bias in our culture, and it pervades and seeps into the church, into the body of Christ. In fact, beloved, our own historic denomination has just splintered into that over and over and over and over again, constantly pointing out and calling all of us to focus on what we have in distinction from one another instead of what we have in common with each other. It's just not the way it's supposed to be in the body of Christ. In fact, let's look more closely at this text that Paul talks about in Romans chapter 12, verse 15. Let's see the way he says it first by putting the rejoicing first. He says, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. This is a command. It's in the form of the imperative. It is a particular unique way in which he uses the imperative, but it is a command. It is something that we're supposed to be doing. Listen to the things we're supposed to be doing starting in verse 9. Love must be free of hypocrisy. Detest what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Give preference to one another in honor. Not lagging behind in diligence. Fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Rejoicing in hope. Persevering in tribulation. Devoted to prayer. Contributing to the needs of the saints. Practicing hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. And weep with those who weep. We are to be known for this as a body of believers.
I want you to see this. There's this culture that we need to be building. Rejoicing with those who rejoice is in a healthy community. Members make it a habit to celebrate one another's good fortune, successes, and seasons of thriving. It becomes part of our culture. In fact, if you look at the way he says this in 1 Corinthians, and in fact, it says it exactly like that. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 26 says it this way. And in one part of the body suffers, all the parts suffer with it. If a part is honored, all the parts rejoice with it. This is not in the imperative. It's in the indicative. He's just stating how things are in a healthy body of believers. We won't be able to help ourselves. We'll suffer when others suffer, and we'll rejoice when they do well. It's something that will just be overflowing for us. It'll be part of our culture. In one place, he says it's a command. He's giving a prescription for a potentiality of experience for us. But here he's just making an observation about a reality in the healthy body of believers all being one together. And that is, when that happens, we'll rejoice with those who rejoice. We'll celebrate with those who have things to celebrate. We won't focus on the negative, pointing out what we have in distinction from one another or what we don't like, or add phrases like, well, yes, he's a blessing, but even though, or in spite of. Or you can always tell somebody's about to blow somebody up when they say, you know, what I'm about to say, I say in love. Get your throat guard and your chest protector on, beloved, because here it comes. So you and I have to think about this. We have to think about how the negativity bias has seeped into our own approach, our own internal responses. Have you caught yourself when someone has something good happen to them? Or they accomplish something, or they have some sort of good fortune, or a windfall comes their way? Have you caught yourself with an internal response that looks something like this? We dismiss it. We'll say, of course, because that person always gets the good stuff. They always get the good fortune. We dismiss it. Or we say, well, it really wasn't all that big of a deal. It's not a big a deal as he's making it out to be. I can guarantee you that. Or we dilute it. We dilute it by offering a counter of, yeah, but where's mine? God blessed him or her, but where's mine? What about my answered prayer? What about the thing I've been asking for? It didn't come up. So we dilute it. We take the focus off of the good of that person and focus on what's missing in ours. We demean it. We ridicule it. We even disqualify it. Well, you know, cheaters always win. He probably knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody. Rather than just say, wow, that's a great thing for you. That's awesome. We know we're living in a healthy culture at First Temple when good things happen to people, and we were able to jump in to celebrate with them without any kind of hesitation, thinking about, even though I didn't get mine, I'm still going to celebrate with it. No. Forget that part. Just celebrate with those who celebrate. Rejoice with those who rejoice. I thought what I would do is I'd find some spots in the scriptures that talk about this idea or give us stories about this happening. And I have found a bunch of negative ones, but I found a really good positive one. And that is the story of a young man named Jonathan. He was the son of King Saul. And he was the heir apparent to the throne. He was already wearing the robe of the prince. He was going to be king. But then, of course, we found out that David was going to be picked as king. And David, his new friend, slew Goliath. And because he slew Goliath, King Saul brought David in. And what was Jonathan's response? man, I don't like him. He's going to take my throne. That's not what Jonathan did at all. Listen to 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 1 through 4. Now it came about that when David had finished speaking to Saul, that Jonathan committed himself to David, and Jonathan loved him as himself. And Saul the king took David that day and did not let him return to his father Jesse's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David with his military gear, including his sword, his bow, and his belt. And you might know this story to know that in the days and months and years to come, Jonathan became a great, great friend to David, even protecting him from his own father's rage and desire to have David assassinated. Which would have in turn made Jonathan, what? Heir to the throne again. But he gave all that up, rejoicing with those who rejoice. It's not a stretch of the imagination to think about him giving up that robe and thinking about the robe of Joseph, that Technicolor dream coat of Joseph, and how his brothers stole that robe, sold him into slavery, and then reported to their dad that he had been killed. And all that was left was the robe. The culture we are building at First Temple should be about rejoicing with those who rejoice. It's so easy to be so negative in our culture and let that come right into the church. We must guard against it. So how do we do that? Well, I want to give you some practical steps today about how to do that. First of all, train yourself to notice and catch someone having something good happen to them or having success. Whether it's something that happened to them or they accomplished them, find them, catch them. It's so easy to miss it, to overlook it, to not see it. And one of the reasons is because we're looking out for ourselves. Several years ago, I was at a conference and happened to get to share a cup of coffee at a table with a couple other people. And Florence Littauer, the great prolific Christian author back in the last century, but still very prolific author. Maybe you've read some of her stuff. And we were talking about how people are so negative and they criticize so much. And as preachers and pastors and ministers and authors, it's so hard because so much negative is out there in response to what you might say or preach or write or whatever. And Florence said this thing. She said, we must remember that people aren't so much against us as they are for themselves. And that's really right. But because we're for ourselves, sometimes we miss those things that are right in front of us that are good for people to be celebrating, and we need to jump in with them. Train yourself to catch them in doing that. Then notice and deal with the internal negative responses or resistances in your own heart. What comes up? What bubbles up to the surface when somebody has something good? Is it negative? Is it kind of like that? Where's mine? Is there some sort of wound in you that is about something negative that happened to you or something that you've been doing without that you really think you need? You've been asking God for, and he's not answered that prayer? That's legit. But don't let the wound of that diminish the rejoicing with the one who has something good happen to them. Notice your own internal negative responses. Take them to God. Take them to Jesus and ask him to help you with that. So some practical things to do after you've done those two things is write a note or a text. I still like to write notes. Valerie knows that whenever we travel and go to different places, different cities, different places, I'm always grabbing a box of cards from that place because I know I'm going to use those cards to write notes to people. I love writing notes to people. I think that's good. I want them to get something in their mailbox in addition to all the junk that comes into their mailbox. It's still it's almost a lost art, but I think it's still good. And the reason I like to send it is because I like to get them. So that's okay. Or if you're not much at doing that, then text. Text them. Write a note. Send them a text. Attaboy, attagirl still works. Make your praise and congratulations specific. Point out to them something unique about what it is that you saw them do or that happened for them and how something specific and unique. that they may not have noticed about it, but you did. So make it specific. Treat them to an experience. Maybe that includes time with you, depending on your relationship level. So that may be like a phone call, or take them to coffee, or even splurge and buy them lunch. Again, depending on the relational level. Treat them to an experience that commemorates that accomplishment or that good fortune that happened in their life. Offer them a small gift, like a gift card or a plant or a favorite treat, if you know what that is. If they've gained a degree or a certification that involves a piece of paper they're going to hang on the wall, pay for the framing of that for them. Tell them, go get it framed. Spend all the money you want on getting it framed. Don't give them a limit. Just tell them, spend all the money you want on getting it framed. Then pay for it. The framing's expensive, so do that. Just dig deep. Sacrifice a little bit. You'll be all right. Gifts are fun to give.